Welcome to Daily Balance. On today's program, we're going to be discussing emotional genetics. It's a fascinating subject, and I think you really will learn a lot. My guest was born and raised in South Africa. She's a multi-award-winning poet and author. Today, we'll talk to her about the dynamics behind success and failure in business, relationships, finances, and much more. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Judy Smith.
Thank you.
Judy, I'm so glad to have you.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
I'm really eager to jump right into this because so many people, you came all the way from South Africa. Tell us about where you're from.
I am from, I always say, the real capital of South Africa.
Okay.
Most people know Johannesburg. I'm from Pretoria.
Okay.
Yeah, right next to, but we're the real deal.
Oh, okay, good. So what brought you over here to the States?
We were given a business opportunity, and it was good timing for us. And I always tell people I got really lucky because I have my roots in Africa and my wings in America, and I'm very pleased with both.
Oh, good, good. And your background is in the medical technology field.
Yes, medical technology field and also autotransfusion and vascular technology. So
Okay.
I'm what they call a highly pedigreed mongrel.
Okay, you're a comedian, huh? I know that you have a strong desire for community service. And when I was learning a lot about you, I've heard you speak before. I really want everyone to learn more about your community service work.
In South Africa, a lot of that was counseling work. I did rape crisis counseling and crisis counseling. And I did some of the self-actualization programs, really because I wanted people to be the best versions of themselves. Because I got lucky. I had good parents and a good home, and I wanted to share that.
Did your parents come to the States too?
They did.
Oh,
Actually, they
yay.
came to the States, and my father was killed here.
Aww.
So it's been different.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. And your mom is still around?
My mom is with me, and she's
Aw.
our honey.
Is she? Sweet,
She's
sweet.
good.
And earlier you had said that you came here for a business opportunity. What type of business
The
opportunity?
business opportunity was one of those medical devices that ultimately took a different direction.
Okay.
But what happened for me was there were a lot of people saying, we could really use your expertise.
Right.
We'll give you work under the table, because I didn't have my green card. And I kept thinking, if I'm going to start in a new country, I can't start dishonestly. So I didn't.
Okay.
And I also didn't want to go nuts, so I started writing books.
Oh, good.
And I started writing psychological thrillers, and I was doing research for my 4th book and met somebody who said, I'll teach you this work.
Oh, good.
And in exchange, I will help you with your books. And so I learned his work, and I'm still waiting for help with the books.
Oh, good. Oh, you're still waiting.
I'm still waiting.
So, but in the
Didn't get
meantime,
it.
you're moving on with your books because you're the author of Tomorrow, A Rainbow.
Right.
And you want to tell the audience about that?
Tomorrow, A Rainbow, they're both psychological thrillers. This one is set in South Africa
This
and
one is
in
Tomorrow,
England.
A Rainbow, and then also The Emeralds Flashed.
Yeah, they're a little bit, I guess, I'm often compared to Robert Ludlum. Those
Okay.
kinds of books. So they're fast action, but set in Africa.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's awesome. How do people get a copy of your book?
They can go on to barnesandnoble.com or amazon.com.
Oh, good. Okay, and that's The Emeralds Flashed and Tomorrow, A Rainbow. And that's by J.M. Ashwell. Why the name J.M. Ashwell? I ask you that.
You did. Before I'd even started doing this work, I'd taken that name because it's my mom's maiden name.
Okay.
But also because I had grandparents who were really important to me.
Oh,
And I
wonderful.
wanted that name to stay. And the interesting thing is that every one of the children in our family has either put that into their business plan or into some part of whatever it is they do. You'll find Ashwell in there.
Wonderful, wonderful.
So we take them with.
Just so you all are on the same page, I was getting so confused when I was researching Judy, and I'm like, who is J.M. Ashwell? And then I would read, and I know this is Judy's story, so what is going on? So then I figured it out. So thank you so much for sharing with the audience. And you do a lot on behavioral genetics. What is that all about?
Behavioral genetics is also very widely known in Europe as family constellation work.
Okay.
And one of the reasons that we use both is because people say, constellations, what? Stars, Leo, no.
Right.
Constellation in this context means a grouping of family dynamics or family components.
Oh, like the constellation normally is a star.
Exactly.
But this is the grouping. Say it again, because I know.
Family constellation work.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's the grouping of the family.
It's the grouping of the components of the family.
Okay.
And what happens is it's set up in such a way that it begins to bring up the hidden patterns in the families, and we all have them.
Okay.
We all have them. And those are the things that allow us to be successful or to fail. And they're so deeply hidden and so unconscious that we don't even know we have them.
And this is both the positive and the negative attributes.
Absolutely. In fact, and if you look at the negative, not negative, challenging.
The challenging,
Because
right.
really the one thing that we teach is the site of your greatest trauma is also the source of your greatest strength. So the important thing with this is that traumatic events in our family history have a profound effect on our physical and emotional health. Most clients don't make the link between what the symptom or the obstacle and the traumatic event.
Now, because it's important to me on Daily Balance with me, of course, it's very important that my audience get a sense of exactly what that person is sharing and what you're trying to get across. So now, emotionally, a traumatic experience actually has a physical impact.
Absolutely.
On some of the...
And just to finish that thought and then to go back onto yours is when people make the connection between the traumatic event and whatever it is that they're dealing with, that sets the stage for a profound emotional shift, which can remove the symptom or can reverse the obstacle. And it's pretty...
And you've seen this happen with people. Once they've come to terms with what happened tragically in their family history, then all of a sudden you see an improvement in their physical health.
Yes, and there's another component. What happens is in your traumatic event, and we'll talk about what those are, but a traumatic event also with an exclusion of a family member. Because we have a whole family system, and what happens is if a family member is excluded as a result of that traumatic event, somebody generations down lives an almost identical life or hits similar problems, because what the family system is doing is it's trying to show there's something missing and you need to bring it back into alignment.
And that's if they've kicked a person, like almost isolated. A person ostracized a family member.
Bad idea.
Oh, yeah.
Bad idea, because that person is going to, crazy Auntie Lucy? She becomes crazy little Lucy 3 generations later.
Okay.
Until everybody has their place of respect and their place of alignment.
So now, crazy Aunt Lucy. Now, we know if you're really Lucy out there, we're not talking about you. We're just talking in general terms here. Now, that aunt or whomever gets kicked out of the family picture because of something that happened that they say as a family, we want you out of our lives. Get out of here. You've done enough damage and harm. Now, as a result of that person getting kicked out, now the family is technically trying to move forward as if everything is okay within that family unit.
Right.
But everything's not okay.
Of course, and they're not talking about it.
Okay.
But the imprint of and impact of that creates a blueprint for generations of suffering.
So now someone else takes on the characteristics of Aunt Lucy, and it's still Aunt Lucy in the family because you shouldn't have kicked Aunt Lucy out of the family.
Shouldn't have kicked Aunt Lucy out of the family. She should have stayed right there. As long as she has her place of respect in the family, you're good to go. It's when we start trying to push people out that there are all these hidden sentences.
So, if someone's crazy Aunt Lucy or whatever, and please, Lucy, if your name is Lucy out there, don't write me and say I'm offended, okay? We're not talking about you. But if someone in the family is crazy acting and you go to kick them out of the picture, you're suggesting, and we're going to learn more right after the break, but I want to know, are you suggesting that you keep them in the family and let them just act a fool and say, okay, you are who you are?
I am suggesting that what we've observed over hundreds of thousands of cases is that everybody has a place in the family system, everybody has a right to belong, and when that's disrespected, we have chaos.
Whoa. We'll be right back with more from Judy Smith about emotional genetics. Stay with us.
Daily Balance with Kim Jacobs is sponsored in part by the Rock Worship Center, Church of God in Christ, located at 1113 Fordham Road, Charlotte, North Carolina. The Rock Worship Center, making disciples through evangelism, exaltation, and edification. For more information, call 704-358-4167 or visit our website at rockworshipcenter.org.
Welcome back to Daily Balance. My guest today is Judy Smith. And Judy, this is some really out-of-the-box stuff we're talking about. If you're just tuning in to Daily Balance, I'm going to let Judy bring you up to speed on emotional genetics.
As we said, emotional genetics, or as many people know it, family constellation work. And what it is we all know that we inherit our physical DNA. But what most of us don't know is that we also inherit our emotional patterns and emotional DNA.
And I had never heard of that until I heard you speak one time.
Right.
And I'm like, that really makes sense, what you were saying.
Sure.
And I mean, as far as traumas, what about people that experience traumas in their lives?
Okay, so let's talk about the kind of traumas that we work with. Traumas that we work with include things like abandonment,
Yes.
multiple miscarriages, stillbirths, abortions,
All of those, yeah.
war, immigration, children who have what we call an interrupted movement with a mother, in other words, an early separation from mom.
Yes.
Crimes, suicides, it runs the gamut.
And so what is the philosophy for emotional genetics surrounding that?
Well, with
What
all
you
of
said.
that, instead of having a look at you right here, right now, we have a look at where did that begin? Because
Like where in the family
where
history?
in the family history. This
Okay.
is all about looking at the family history to see where did that first trauma begin.
Okay.
What set that echo off?
Right.
What set the echo off that said in your family, good girls don't, or in this family, all the men disappear, or in that family, the women drop dead early.
Or a lot of the women are single. Or
Exactly.
keep getting, divorced, and it's like, why? And this is your mother, the grandmother, the great-grandmother.
Absolutely.
How is that possible?
And you see, and what happens there, and that's a beautiful thing that you brought up, what happens there is they follow through generations. Remember I spoke to you about the hidden loyalties and the subterranean patterns?
Yes.
Well, what happens is we have grandma back there who doesn't do very well, and her husband leaves or is killed.
Right.
Daughter looks at mother, and her deep sentence is, Mom, so that you don't have to be alone, I won't have my man either. And he disappears.
Wow.
Granddaughter says, well, Mom, well, Grandmom, if you couldn't have yours, I won't have mine either. And then we have women who look at me and say, you know what? In our family, all the men leave. Well, the men didn't have a chance in the first place. After it started back there with the loyalty in the women, it wasn't going to happen.
Oh, man, okay. So how in the world, if it's because of this family history stuff, which you as a person in today's time have no control over what happened in your family history, how in the world then can you correct that or break that cycle?
What you do is, and it's called breaking the cycle of family pain. That's one of its descriptions.
Okay.
What you do is, remember, it's a hidden pattern. Once it becomes seen, there's something you can do about it.
Okay.
We're only a prisoner for as long as we don't know what pattern's operating.
Okay.
But you see that now what you could do is you look at the family and you say, you know, Mom, you know, Grandmom, you did a lot. And you went through a lot. And thank you for all I got.
And I feel sorry for you.
And now I'm going to do it differently because somebody's got to actually make this family line stronger.
Oh, so a person makes a conscious decision.
It's a very conscious choice.
And they acknowledge what's happened.
Absolutely.
They address what's happened directly with the
Yes.
sources, and then they make a decision to move forward.
Absolutely. So what they do is they go from blind love, and blind love is where we're trapped in a system of repetition and we don't know it, to love with vision. Now they can look at even that crazy Aunt Lucy and say, you know what? She had a really tough life.
Now go back over that again. That's the blind love and love with vision. We talked about that during the break, but I really want the audience to get it.
Okay, so blind love will keep you prisoner. We will all do anything to belong to our family system. You will accept not doing well because you're in good conscience with a family. And Bert Hellinger is the man who actually brought all of this to light. He will tell you it takes a great deal of courage to pursue happiness. It's much easier to be unhappy. We know how to do that plenty well.
Wow.
Happiness takes courage. And it takes breaking the pattern by daring to do it differently and saying, we don't need to keep doing this way.
That's some profound stuff. And what about the love with vision?
Love with vision is really saying, hey, Mom, you had a rough time too, and I'm going to leave that fate with you with respect. And I will do better to honor all the sacrifices that you made. And in this way, I carry my family forward with respect. And I do well. And of course, it all begins with our parents. If we have our parents, and people say, what do you mean if you have your parents?
Right.
If we can take our parents exactly as they are, and we can take the gift of life we were given exactly as it was given, we can live well and do well. It's when we start saying, I don't want this, I don't want my life like this, guess what? You had exactly the right mother and exactly the right father, because without them, you wouldn't have been born with your special talents and your challenges that take you where you need to go.
Well, what about people that have abandoned their families? And it's not like if your parent abandoned you, you can't do anything about what they did. So how do you deal with that?
I'll tell you what I do, because I deal with that a lot. People say, I had a lady actually call on the radio who said, my mom left, I have nothing. I don't know. And I said to her, actually, you really do? First, she gave you life, and that sounds simple, but she did. Do you have a picture of her? And she said, yes. And I said, carry your mom with you wherever you go.
Wow.
And remember, my mom. She's my mom. And keep saying that, because when you can honor that as my mom, you find that you get a little softer. And suddenly, you do have a mom. And because you have her, you can move forward.
What about people in business? It's impacting people with their families and everything, but what about the business world?
Business is one of my favorites. Business, if you do well with your mother, mom is the source of life, your currency, and your flow. If you reject your mother, your chances of doing well, not so good.
In business.
And life and finances.
Wow, okay.
Not so good, because mom is the source of all of that. She gave you life, and she gave you currency, and she gave you flow.
Okay.
Of course, then you have dad for a boy. If dad doesn't do well, then the hidden loyalty for the boy is, Dad, how dare I do better than you? I too won't do well.
So they make almost like a subconscious
this is very subconscious
decision, and then just their lives are like out of sync.
That's right, and we have 4 things. It's either I'll do it like you, Dad. I'll follow you, Mom, if Mom dies early. I'll do it in your place, Dad, because you won't look. Or I in your place. And we see this with anorexic children often, where we have dad who's often missing from the family, and we have a girl who's often anorexic. And the inner sentence for her is, Dad, rather I disappear than you. And so she stops eating.
Wow. Okay, first of all, I do high-five moments. Normally it's for real positive stuff, but this is just for some deep stuff, so give me a high-five, okay? We're going to talk more with Judy right after this break about some specifics and some solutions when Daily Balance continues.
Daily Balance with Kim Jacobs is sponsored in part by 5 Links. 5 Links is committed to being in the forefront of the telecommunications industry and offers products and services throughout the United States and worldwide. Services include Global Links digital phone, cellular services, satellite TV, high-speed internet, Global Links Wi-Fi phones, and 5 Links home security. For more information, call 1-800-575-4021 or visit our website today.
Well, welcome back, everybody. We've been talking with Judy Smith about emotional genetics. And Judy, I'm telling you, you're saying some phenomenal information. I know people went and grabbed a pen and pad during the break, because I really want, at this point, for us to kind of break down the different areas of emotional genetics. Let's start with obesity.
And there are so many of them, but obesity is a nice one.
Okay.
Obesity, many times what we observe is that a child who rejects both parents or who rejects her mother, what she won't take into her soul, she takes in through her mouth. So in effect, she's taking the mother into the body and making space. The other one is a
Wait a minute,
child.
stop for a second. This is some psychedelic stuff you said. If a person is
What you won't take into your soul,
what you won't take into your soul,
you will take into your body.
you'll take it into your, okay, so then that's where the weight gain comes from.
Right.
So if a person, give me an example, a scenario for my audience.
I'd like to touch on one more because it's an easier example.
Okay, go ahead.
Adoption.
Oh,
Somebody
okay.
actually asked me about adoption earlier today. And they said, what if you don't know your parents?
Right.
Often with adopted children, we find that they really want to know that parent, and there's that deep subconscious longing. And many times we find that obese children who are adopted have made space to include the missing biological parents. So they're keeping them in their heart. They're keeping space.
Even though they never
Even though they
met
never
them.
met them, we've had cases of children who will do something like cut themselves in a specific way.
Okay.
And when we say, please find out about your mother, we find that, yeah, mom cut herself the same way when she was 14 and she's never met her mom.
So, wow.
So it's not that you're consciously seeing it, it's passed down. You asked me for an example, a parent who is in a bad way. Children are often obese because they need the weight to take care of the parent who can't. They need that weight to be able to take care of that parent.
If y'all see my mouth open, I'm like, wow, this is amazing stuff here.
And missing siblings, we find sometimes, not always, but we find sometimes that a sibling who goes missing will be included by the next sibling in line. And they expand their weight to include it. Now, here's another one for you with a missing sibling. We find sometimes that when we have a sibling who dies early, the next sibling, unless the parents are really conscious of what they're doing, will live half dead or maybe